Dakota here with Old Pecan Homestead. We're going to have a Christmas brisket. I'm going to smoke it for probably 20 hours and rest it for a couple of hours. I've watched a few videos on brisket because I've never smoked one or cooked one for as long as I wanted to. Most people are in the 8 to 10 or 12 hour range on brisket, but we're going to be eating about 1 o'clock tomorrow, so I didn't want to have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to start this thing or anything like that. So we're going to go for the 20 plus hour range. I am going to inject it just to make sure that it's tender and got a lot of moisture in it. I didn't want to overpower the flavor of the brisket with the injection, so this is about 2/3 beef broth, a third apple juice, and then just maybe a tablespoon of Worcester and 2 tablespoons of Dell's seasoning, and just a few shakes of Cholula in there, and a few tablespoons of olive oil. I'll have to blend that up before I load the injector so that it blends with the water. But I didn't want to overpower the flavor of the brisket, so I kept the flavoring of this pretty mild. And then we'll get this thing injected. This is a prime grade brisket, and really I thought I was going to do some trimming, but after looking at it, I really don't think there's a lot of trimming. I do want some of this fat for some deer burger grind, so I'll probably go ahead and take a little bit off the back and maybe this chunk right here off where the point and the flat come together. But I'm not a big recipe follower, so I just kind of, like I said, watched a few videos and just kind of going out on my own and kind of doing my own idea, my own version of a few things I've seen. So I'm gonna get this thing opened up, do a little bit of trimming, and then we'll move to the injection. And I'll be dry rubbing it with some cow cover. And I like sweet barbecue, so I'll probably do a little bit of brown sugar in that cow cover. And for bonding, I'll do a little bit of Cholula and mustard. And you really won't taste the mustard. You don't taste any of that afterwards. It just helps build a good bark. I've done some pork shoulders, and mustard works great. Okay, so like I said, I was actually kind of hoping to have to do some more trimming to this because I wanted it from a deer grind, but I'm going to take this thick piece of fat off right here where the flat transitions into the point. You're going to want a sharp knife. These Bubba blades, it's a fillet knife, but it works great for trimming meat and processing. As you can see, it's pretty sharp. I probably could have put a little better edge on it, but it will hold a really good edge. But I like fat, so I'm gonna leave some of that there. And then there's some silver skin down here. We'll go ahead and take that off. There we go. Like I said, this is pretty well trimmed up. There's not a lot to it. Prime grade brisket. Take some of the silver skin off over here. Look at that marbling in it. I don't know if you can see that on that video. We're gonna flip it over. Alright, I think I could probably get some fat off this. Everybody online says keep it to about 1/4 inch. There's a lot of fat on here. There's quite a bit of fat on this fat cap side, so well, quite a bit down here anyways. That seemed a little thin. I'm not going to take any more off that. Did see him take this part off. A lot of this fat right here. It's just real thick fat right there. I did see him do that. Not as thick as I thought right there. But like I said, it's already trimmed pretty good. But I like that. We're gonna move on to getting this thing injected, and then I'm gonna put after it's injected, I'm gonna bring it back to the butcher paper, and that's when I'm gonna put my dry rub on it, and then we'll move out to the grill. Okay, let's get to injecting this brisket. Like I said, I put a little olive oil in there and it's separated, so I'm gonna stir this up a little bit every time before I fill my injector. That way it's blending. I just feel like that oil will help keep it tender, but as much marbling as I see in this thing, I don't even know that was necessary. I don't think it could hurt. Olive oil is pretty low in flavor. It's not going to overpower the beef, so I just went with it. A lot of people say inject with the grain. Some people even say inject against the grain. I think I'm just going to kind of go all over the place, because there's a lot of people that say both ways. I'm not that worried about it. I'm just going to try to get a little injection just about everywhere for consistency. You're not going to want to go all the way through. You're going to want to go somewhere about in the middle. You're going to try to cover every bit of this brisket so that it gets equal treatment. That way, throughout this whole brisket, the texture and the moisture level and the flavor is just consistent. And you're going to want to keep it in a pan, because by the time I'm done doing this, this whole pan is going to be full of fluid. I'll get back to you when we're on the butcher paper and we're doing the dry rub. Alright, so we got it injected, and I was curious how much injection actually stayed in it. So in that pan that we had it in, I poured it back into the mug, and it's holding 3/4 of all that injection, so that I'm satisfied with that. I'm gonna dry rub this with this Cosmos cow cover. I actually put this on a whole chicken in the smoker the other day, and it was pretty good. But And like I said earlier, we're going to use mustard as a binder for the dry rub, and a little Cholula. Now, what I actually prefer, what I've done on my pork shoulders, and it's worked really well, was blending this with Valentino's. And like I said, you don't really taste mustard at all. You won't taste it. So if you're worried about that, I've never tasted the mustard afterwards. But you're just going to put a whole lot of mustard on there. You can't really put too much. And then I don't know how this is going to act. It's a little watery compared to Valentino's, but that's what I got. I'm just going to shake some of that on there. Then you're going to go back and you're going to rub that in. Get that mustard rubbed in real good. And you're just going to do one side of this brisket at a time. Because if you roll this over right now, it's just all going to stick to the paper. And you don't really want too wet of a spot to work with anyways, because it's a dry rub. I like this real dry whenever I put it in the smoker. So once you think you got it where you want it, then you're going to take your dry rub and start shaking it on. I went ahead and said I was going to put some brown sugar in there. I filled this solo cup here up just about halfway with that dry rub and put about a tablespoon of brown sugar in there to sweeten it up just a little bit. And you're just going to coat this thing real heavy. Don't be afraid to get too much on there, because it's not going to penetrate the brisket really. I mean, it's really just to create that barbecue bark. And then sort of rub that in a little bit, get it moist, and then go back over it again, put a little bit more on there. Almost makes a paste, and then I go right back over it. I'm just sort of combining a little bit of what I seen on briskets when I was watching a few videos and what I already know about pork shoulders, because I've done several pork shoulders on the Pit Boss. Alright, once you think you got this side where you want it, you want to get these sides real good too. You want every inch this thing covered. You want bark all the way around this thing. Once you think you got this side where you want it, flip it over. You're going to go back and you're going to repeat the mustard process. I'm not sure that Cholula really helped too much. It's a little watery, so I'm just going to do mustard on this side. But like I said, Valentino's and mustard works excellent. Get it on the sides real good. Alright. Once you got that rubbed in real good, same process. Work that into a little bit of a paste. This seems like a lot of seasoning, but this is a 16-pound brisket, and I bet you I didn't have to trim more than maybe 1 pound of fat off this thing. So once you start slicing this and have it on the smoker for 20 hours, it's not going to be too much seasoning. All right, now I just need to let this keep coming up to, that was a lot, but let this keep coming up to room temperature and get the grill ready. And I'm going to be smoking this fat cap up for the first half of the, well, really the entire duration, but first half it's going to be fat cap up. I'm going to try to keep it under 200 degrees, around 190 degrees I think. And I'm going to probably let it sit for about 6 to 8 hours before I even do anything else to it. But once I get it off of there after that duration, I'm going to wrap it in this butcher paper. I'm going to put it back on there for probably another 12 hours. And then once that internal temperature hits around 200 degrees steady for a while, I'm going to pull it off and I'm going to place it in a cooler to rest, and hopefully I can get about 2 hours of rest out of this before we cut into it. Okay, Shayla reminded me of a pork shoulder I did where I made a coffee rub, and she was telling me she wanted some coffee on there, so I just sprinkle a little bit of this coffee right here on the top. Trust me, it's actually really good. I thought it was a little weird, but then it kind of sounded interesting, so I tried it and it was really good. And the rub that I had actually made previously, it was practically like 50% coffee, based off of the one that I looked up. But this is just a light dusting. For one, I wasn't able to really mix it in. I don't want to accidentally overdo it somehow. But it was really good, so since she suggested it, I'm going to go ahead and put a little coffee on there. What do you think about that, Huxton? Does it sound good? Huh?
I will do it.
You'll do it?
Yeah.
I think we got plenty on there, son. Just like that. See that? Pat that in. We'll get this thing thrown on the smoker. I'm going to bring that smoker. I never clean my smoker, so it's always got drippings and stuff in it. I really don't see a need to. I think it, the more you use your grill, the better the stuff tastes that comes off of it. But what I do is before I get the smoker set at the temperature I'm going to use it at, I'll crank it up to like 400 degrees and let some of that stuff burn off before I get the meat put on there. So I got it cranked up right now. We'll see. We'll see you back as soon as we're throwing it on the smoker. Okay, so I got the Pit Boss warmed up. I did just load this box down. Interesting fact, this Pit Boss holds 21 pounds of pellets, and that happens to be 1 5-gallon bucket because my bag got cut open. But I got it cranked up, just burning off some of the drippings from the chickens and the pork and steaks and other things I've cooked on here recently. But you can see I just opened it, but it was over 400. We're gonna let that just cook like that for a while. I'm gonna dial it back to. I think I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to get the. I need to get me a new overlay ordered for my. Whoa, this is real blurry. Okay, there we go. I need to get me a new overlay ordered for my Pit Boss. It's pilling up there, or I don't know why it's doing that exactly. It's like the sticker shrank and then bowed up or something. It's weird. But I'm gonna try these P settings. You can turn it to a smoke setting, and then I think the higher you go on these P settings, yeah, the higher you go, the lower the temperature will be. So I think I'm gonna try it on like a, I'm gonna set this at P2. I'm gonna give it a while to adjust and see what it sort of settles out at. And I think, you know, as big as that brisket is, it's gonna drop the temperature in there. So if I could get this to about 205 on a smoke setting, that'd be probably about perfect, because I think once I throw that brisket in there, it's gonna ride about 190, and that's right where I want it. I think, you know, 20 hours under 200 degrees, you can't go wrong, because everybody says the magic number is 200 degrees on that brisket. Well, if you get that whole brisket to 190 over the course of, you know, 18 to 20 hours of smoking or longer. Alright, she's going on the grill. We got it. I set it on that P2 setting, and it ended up getting to right at 195, and I like that. We'll just sort of watch it for a few minutes after we got it on there. I'm gonna put the this tends to be the hotter side of the grill, I think, so I'm gonna put the point over there. It's a lot thicker. Once you get it on here, try not to slide it around too much, because you're just gonna rip your dry rub off. But we're gonna let it sit like that for a while and let it acclimate, and then recheck the temperature. There for about 8 hours almost. It was on fat side up for the majority of it. Like the last 30 minutes, I flipped it over so that the meat side would get a little more barky. Now I'm fixing to put it in some butcher paper and wrap it up and put it back on there. And it'll be on there for about 9 hours, and then we'll take it off and we'll put it in a cooler to rest. Time's up. You gotta pay attention to which side your fat side is when you're doing this. So fat side's up. Down. Now it's up. Gotta have that right so that you keep that fat side up whenever you're in the pellet. I've got one more here. Okay, it's about 10 o'clock in the morning. I came out here at about 7:30 to check on it when the kids woke up for Christmas. This one right here is still reading about 178. This one here is reading 190 still. That thing is just push on it. it's like Jello. It's probe. Talk about probe tender. Oh, it's like there's not even anything in there. It's ready. I just turned the smoker down to about 165, 170 just to keep it warm, and start that rest period. I'll probably take it off about 11 and put it in a cooler, and we'll start digging in about.
Hey guys, it's Shayla here. So, unfortunately, family had came over and we forgot to do the last video of this brisket. Um, as you can see, we did get a picture real quick. It turned out to be a little more like chopped brisket. It was really, really good. Don't get me wrong, extremely good. But my husband was disappointed that it wasn't sliceable. And so he said that if he would have done it differently, he probably would have went ahead and wrapped the brisket 2 hours sooner than he did. So instead of leaving it in the grill for 8 hours, he would have done it for 6. So we're gonna have to get another brisket and try that again. But as far as flavor and the moistness and tenderness, it was amazing. But that was his only complaint. Other than that, I highly recommend doing everything he did and just wrapping the meat about 2 hours sooner. Other than that, it was great. Thanks for watching.